then I snapped his fingers off really and said, yes, come along and do it. Yesterday, Stuart doesn't know this, but I did distribute to the civil engineers a link to your YouTube report from last Tuesday, I think. And those of you who do not see it, if you want to see it, then I can send you the link on, or look up Atlantic Stew on Facebook, on YouTube, because the work he did, the report he did from last Tuesday is outstanding, alarming, whatever you want to call it. It was really good, and showed just what we're facing. But Stuart is going to talk this afternoon. I'm going to hand over to him in a few seconds. My version of Zoom stops after 40 minutes, and we're already 6 minutes into it. I don't know how long Stuart wants. If he wants to continue beyond the 40 minutes, then what we have to do when it dies on us, we simply go back to the link and click on it and start all over again. It'll just take us 2 or 3 minutes to get started again, but that's what we've had to do in the past when we've had a longer session. I will ask everybody, and nearly everybody has managed this, to put your microphones on mute unless you want to say anything in particular. Then take it off mute, and you might want to wave to me so I can see that something happening, either using the wave facilities or just wave your hand like that, and I'll be able to see. I can see everybody on my screen, 24 at the moment. I think I can see 25 in total if we get to 25, but we've got 24. I am recording this, Stuart, if you don't mind, because at least one of the civil engineers is working this afternoon, and he can't be here, and he just wants to see it, so I'll try and send it on to him afterwards. And if anybody else wants a recording, I can obviously, I might actually put it onto YouTube if Stuart doesn't mind, and then we can have a look at it at leisure if we want to do after that. People may see a name, Carl Phillips, who's sitting halfway down my screen. Carl is the civil engineers director on the board, and has made himself known to us in a meeting last week. And obviously he's interested in what's happening up the line, so I'm glad to see him here today. The other names that my guys won't recognise, I'm assuming, are all guards, apart from Richard Laws here today. But I think the rest of the names that are new to us are all guards who have been invited by Stuart, which is great. We're up to 25, which is good. So, Stuart, do you want to take over now?
Yeah.
And I'll hand over to you so that you can do with whatever you want to do, share the screen and so on.
Right.
Right, well, just 1 second while I click on your make host. There you are. You're now the host.
Okay, thank you.
You're in charge. You can do a second screen or whatever you think you need to do. And I will mute myself, but I will come back if I need to do.
Okay, thank you, Mike. And thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. It's really nice that people take so much interest in this sort of work. I'm a geologist by trade, and that was how I approached this investigation. I was asked by the company to go down from a geological point of view and just take a look at what's going on at Chestwheel. And I must admit, what I found was tremendously interesting, and I'd like to share it with you. Carl, did you want to say something up front?
Yeah, just to say, we've got some actions from this presentation, so there's stuff going on in the background, and I've got to report to board on various things in a couple of weeks, and then I'll come back to this team and give an update, if that's okay, on what we're actually going to do about some of the stuff. So that's going to be the plan, if that's okay. So yeah.
Wonderful.
Stuart, yep.
Thank you, Carl. Carl and I went out there last week, and it was very important that we had the report that I've written that goes with this to send to the directors. Right, I'm not going to assume that you're all geologists, so I spent 4 minutes making this video to explain to you what rock doctors like me actually enjoy. So let's take a look at this, and in 4 minutes we'll go to the main presentation. If I get it to work. There we go.
Okay, so here we are. We're in the ELR Valley, and we're just away from Chestwheel. I'm stood on some rocks here. These types of rock were laid down in what's known as the Carboniferous era. That was about 300 million years ago to 300 million years ago. These are really important to us because it shows why the landslip has occurred on the other side. Other heavy, thick rocks that you can see here called sandstones and grits. They are a sedimentary rock which is laid down by either sea or by rivers. You can see this flat plain here, smooth and flat. That represents a bedding plane, and that bedding plane was horizontal when these rocks were laid down. Through time, the sediment has become compressed rocks. The tectonic movement of the earth has brought it to the surface, and in our case here, these hard rocks have been seriously eroded by the River Irwell here. We'll go over the other side and take a look at some different geology that has impact on what we're looking at. Okay, we've come up from the river, which is 15-20 meters below us. We're going to go up to Chestwheel and take a look at the geology there. Beyond Chestwheel is a little footpath we've got right on top, and that is actually 50 to 60 meters higher than the level of the river here. We'll let you off. Some of the thicker sandstones and bones can be seen in the Chestwheel cut here at the top of the cutting. During the Carboniferous era, when the sandstones were laid down, things used to move up and down, and sediments used to be laid differential, so you could get shale, thin sandstones, siltstones, and when the area became almost land, you get coal laid down, which of course is the remnants that have collapsed into the sediment and solidified into that mineral which is so important to us here. Coal that gave us the Industrial Revolution, steam engines, the stone that built buildings, and of course coal that gave us our very important hobby, steam railways. A very important sequence. Hard rock. 300 million years is a long time for our rocks to hang around. And in that period between them being made into rocks, they have been moved around on the Earth's surface. As they moved around on the Earth's surface, they would bang into one another, and the rocks would bend to form faults. And where those faults became too much for the competency of that rock, they would break and form what we call faults. One side and an upside. Through that 300 million years, all rocks have been eroded, and they're eroded by different things. By wind in the deserts, by rivers, as we've seen at the bottom, and they also would have been eroded by glaciers. And that's why we're up here. We're in a different geological era now. What you can see here is rolling fields we call glacial clay. This glacial clay was derived from the last ice age. The glaciers were sheets over the whole of the country. As the climate changed, the glaciers melted. The water formed some huge rivers that took sediment that was entrained in those glaciers to form glacial clays, glacial sand. What happened also was that the rocks underneath were relieved of the glaciers melting, and they rose. This is called isostatic adjustment. But as the rocks rose, the rivers had to cut down. They had to work harder to stay in their right course. So rivers like the Irwell are what we call incised rivers. And that 50 to 60 meter difference between the river there and the top of our is just a really good example of that isostatic adjustment. This clay helps water to run off superbly and obviously makes good fields for the farmers.
Okay, so here we are. I'm going to stop sharing. Can everybody see that? Wave at me if you can see it, will you, Carl? Tony? Yeah, you can see it. Lovely, thank you. Right, we'll start with the slideshow itself. So what I wanted to do here was to do literally a phase 1 report. And a phase 1 report basically is a report which says, this is what we've got, and these are probably the problems or the pluses or the minuses or whatever you want. So my first slide here is obviously a Chestwheel itself, and the red line here represents roughly the outline of where our landslip is. You can see it's slightly lower than the track bed itself. The main geographical setting is that it's south of Summerseat. It's geologically triggered, the landslips are triggered glacially. They're located on a significant... Are you all right, Tony?
I'm still seeing you stood in a field.
Okay, you're still seeing me stood in a field. That's not good. Right, so... Right. I'll stop sharing. Right. Let me reshare here. There we go. There we go. Sorry, guys. Start from the beginning.
That's better.
You got it? Lovely.
Yeah, I'll mute myself now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's the rough outline of where the landslip is at Chestwheel. Basically, south of Summerseat, glacially triggered landslips. They're located on a significant fault line, which I'll show you later. The track bed is narrow and being eroded on the edge, which is pretty obvious when you go up there. And down that side, we have that deep incised river to the west. To the east, we have that steep bare slope where the footpath goes up. And we have some historical surface drainage confluence, which is dating probably from the 1850s. What does a landslip look like? It looks something like this. You can see it's a chunk, a wedge of soil, which has been moved along its failure surface, and different things will give you a different failure surface. So you go to the British Geological Survey and they will give you this list of what influences landslides. Slope susceptibility to a landslide to such events as rainfall or groundwater ingress, which can decrease the material and increase the likelihood of a slip. Erosion processes such as a river at the bottom, which would take the toe off the rocks. The steepness of the slope, the type of rocks. So if you've got a bedding which is interleaved, that can give you slips as well. Faulting or jointing and the orientation of bedding planes, as we saw. The arrangement of the rock layers is really important. Lack of vegetation can give you an issue where it starts to erode the soils. Flooding over and or adjacent to an area, and man's activity, of course, so mining, traffic vibrations, urbanization and things like that, surface water drainage. The near surface geology, the look of this map is colourful. What we want to look at is the Chestwheel slip, and in the background you can see the River Irwell underneath that yellow strip. The yellow strip either side of the River Irwell is the old deposits of alluvium that have been put there by the river, and the brown stuff down towards the bottom are sands and gravels that were also put there by the river. Getting back to that deep geology that we had a look at, where you see the dot Chestwheel and the River Irwell sign, I was located just above the R in River Irwell. So that pink stuff demonstrates where the thick bedded sandstones outcrop. They make really steep sides and are very stable. Elsewhere below it, you have grey siltstones and shales, so that's the green and grey. And you have dotted lines, and the dotted lines I will try and pick out for you are here, here, and another one which crosses over here. So those are fault surfaces, and they have moved rocks from one level to another in one way or another, mostly up and down. So you get the yellow here against the pink, and the yellow against the green, and the yellow against the grey. That's our deep geology. This is Carboniferous deposits. One of the things I wanted to take a look at was how the river impacts upon the base of this landslip, to see if it really was having an impact. As an Environment Agency officer, I spend a lot of time seeing floods, and I can see the damage that rivers can do. So to get this close to the edge of the river was really important, because of course with the flooding that we've had recently, you can't get there. So looking from left to right at this picture, on the left hand side you can see coming down the bank there are two orange stripes, and those orange stripes represent the discharge of groundwater, the orange being iron, which has been picked up by the groundwater itself. As we go towards the centre, perhaps past the tree stump, you can see I've put in two sets of yellow lines going up and down, and they represent what we call a brecciated or broken zone. So where these rocks have rubbed themselves together and broken, they've broken up into bits and pieces. Quite often they can be 1 metre to 2 metres wide, where you get just this brecciated, faulted zone. When you look at the rocks, and these are the photographs at the top, so the left photograph here shows a vertical face. Now all our sandstones were more or less at 10 degrees or horizontal. To find a vertical face like that is really unusual. And what it represents is where an edge to the rocks that were horizontal or at 10 degrees have been broken and turned round like that. The center photograph here shows a coal seam. Now these are really, really good to find because they bend quite nicely. And this one we can see has a bend on it, which is like that. So it goes from 45 degrees to horizontal. And that is where the coal itself has been bent something like that. So we have one like this, one like that. And then we go to the other side here. Now this was well hidden. I had to dig this out a bit. But that piece in there is a coal which is horizontal again. So we've gone from horizontal on either side, like this, to a bend in the middle. So we've either got one or two faults that have moved the rocks. The bend in the rocks is telling us that we are down thrown on this side, we're up thrown on the opposite side, and we're down thrown on this side. Now this will all come in later on, where we look at what the groundwater, the surface water, and these faults are doing for our landslip. Here we see the Carboniferous coal seams. These are the things that gave us the vertical face you can see here, and the bent face that you can see there. Back here once again, we're going to pick out groundwater. The orange stains that you can see are a dead giveaway for groundwater. So the first one on the left is coming through the rock, is coming through the overland. Halfway up the hill, groundwater is coming out, going overland and spilling into the river here. The next one, believe it or not, there is a ceramic 12-inch pipe which somebody's put in there, which is taking groundwater away from the landslip. And if we go to the right-hand side where the blue arrow is here, this discharge is coming through the broken rocks that the fault has made. And that actually you can't see on the surface. You can only see it when you're down by the water. Surface water itself overflows as well, but it is clear looking. We go back to our old geology map. These maps were made in 1927, and they were made to the best of people's ability at that time. And what it does show is where the word Chestwheel Bridge is, which is here. There is a weir, and the faults that we found were near this 30. These curvy bits, blue on the map, represent the coal as it's outcropping in the river. And in fact, this white dotted line here, which they presume to be a fault, and that's why it's dotted, is in fact probably the fault that I found here in the rocks. So we've actually moved that fault here to where the 30 is and demonstrated that they were right about the downthrown side. Let's go to an aerial photograph and take a look from the River Irwell on the left to where we were in the fields on the right. And the idea here is to try and find out what the surface water influence is on our drainage. So if we go back to what we know, and that was the discharge on this side of the diagram, it comes down from two inspection chambers, one on the left and one on the right of the track. The two chambers are joined together, and this concrete chamber takes track water, so cess, down the track from Summerseat. And as you'll all know, the footpath that goes up the hill is this firm dotted line, this firm solid line which goes to the top where the gate is. You can actually trace that pipe work, and I've put two photographs in here, one here and one here, which show you where the pipe work is. Looking into the pits, it says you're not just taking water from the footpath, you're also taking water from up on the fields with another 2-foot diameter pipe here. These are quite large pipes when you get to the bottom. We get to the top of the slope, and what we will find is there is an old stone, flagstone drain with about a 6 to 9 inch pipe which goes underneath the footpath, and that is taking all this zigzaggy water that I've put on here, which is that glacial clay that we saw. The runoff is superb there, and a lot of water runs into those drains. Sorry, just admitting somebody there. Hi, Mr. Roderick, all the way from Inverness. How are you? We're halfway through the presentation, Dave. I've just shown the outline of the surface drainage settings, and I'm now hopefully going to go to the next screen. Oh, I'm not. It's going to take its time to admit Dave, I think. Just give me a moment. Okay. So when you've got surface fields like that and drainage channels that you might want to put in nowadays, the first thing you would do is to figure out how much water are these drainage pipes going to handle. So you want to have some idea of the effective catchment. And the catchment is the amount of water that's coming at you in terms of square meters. The two big fields on the top on glacial clay are somewhere in the region of 52,000 square meters and near enough 76,000 square meters. Down the bottom, the railway drainage gives us about 10,000 square meters, and the cricket club a further 10,000. And that gives us a total of about 153,000 square meters of drainage. This is the glacial clay again, and this here, so where I'm stood, where the top left photograph is actually in the V channel looking up to the pylon. So you get some idea of the steepness of that. And the right-hand photograph here, the channel is down here, and you can see it going to the telegraph pole there. This line that we can see here is an indication of that fault that we saw in the river. So it goes across there, somewhere in the region of laterally 400 to 500 meters. So this is quite a significant fault, both for its distance in terms of length and the movement that it had on its faces. This is the flag drain, which that channel goes into. And you can see this is probably, I don't know, 1850s when it was built, and takes drainage from about 53,000 square meters. The gate is in the background there. As we come to the other side of the gate, you get some idea of the antiquity of the surface drainage we're looking at. Bottom picture here shows two rather large diameter pipes, one from the top field, one going down to the railway, and the one which is just out of the picture here comes down the footpath slope. The top right-hand picture is the drain itself and the pits. and the top left is the footpath. As we look from the top, you can see that there's a lot of surface water erosion. Okay, back to the drainage, and we're at the top of the path here. In 2016, the civil engineering permanent way guys dug a channel down here, the 2016 relief drain. This was really important in relieving this mega volume of water which is going down the footpath. Back to our face here. This is where, on the left-hand side over here, the surface water drainage comes to, and what a geologist has to try and figure in his own mind is how much of that water that is incident on the ground actually feeds into these groundwater feeds, because those are the things that are going to lubricate our landslip. This is an indication on the left of the overflow. So that is groundwater overflow, and it's coming from the base of this real bendy tree you can see here. The bend is obviously indicative of some kind of movement as it's grown, and in reality this tree and its roots are holding back this whole mass of land which you can see behind it. That is the main nub of the landslip itself. The reason this picture is here is it shows that actually the bottom of the tree, the bottom of the landslip, is not at the river level. So erosion by the river is not what is moving this landslip. I did 3 transects, 1, 2, 3, to get the slope of the land. When I did this, it was absolutely covered in bush, so it was difficult to do, but we've got pipeline, ochreous outfall, fault line, and then this traverse along the river. My rather rough hand-drawn sketches give you a pipeline here, base is hard sandstone, slope is 28 degrees to the railway. The bendy tree, which has a 39-degree slope, which most of you will know is over the critical angle onto the railway. And then above the fault line, in fact, the ochreous outfall, but again, we've got a 28-degree slope. The cross-section parallel with the railway shows north solid sandstone, here where the outfall has cut a bit of a channel, and then back here and up again. That's quite significant, really, because when you look at the cross-section here, and if you imagine that the back wall is this top left photograph, and the blue lines point out where it is on our diagram, and the photograph of the bottom right shows you the river, you see bottom left photograph, bendy tree, and main nub of the landslip itself. The indication here is that actually it's under drainage which is causing a landslip, as in the 2016 rainfall that we had. I've got 6 minutes left, so I'm going to be rushing along a little bit here. Okay, this gives you a good idea of how much rainfall fell on the 6th of October. So if you've been very lucky to see my video there and the amount of water that there was visually coming at you, this says from the top fields with 42 millimeters of rain, the north top field took 3 million litres to the railway. The bottom top field took 2.1 million litres of rain onto the railway. Railway itself probably accounted for about 60, sorry, I'm trying to figure that out, say 5,000 cubic metres. Okay, so there were conclusions and recommendations on this, and there are quite a lot of them because what I wanted to do is pick the detail out of it. But the main detail is that we shouldn't remove any ground cover because that's causing erosion. The main area of landslip is to the west of the railway, and its movement is intermittent, and only major movement is being detected during heavy rainfalls, 2016. Erosion by the river at the base is not considered to be primary. Continuous minor creep will continue, but should be kept under observation, and we have a method where we're going to keep tabs on this. We felt that the track should be aligned away from the edge of the west-hand side, which overlooks the river. The drainage from the Chestwheel cutting drainage system should be captured and fed away from the curve area. Hence our 2016 drain is really important. Extra drainage system at track bed level and into the outflow should be cleaned and assessed for worst case flows to prevent water being ejected from the inspection chambers. I felt that the cricket club was supplying us some water we didn't want to have. All this was written down when we hadn't had October the 6th. October the 6th, I suggest you go back and have a look at where the water actually went to and was the proof of the pudding in terms of what I was saying here. Thankfully, the water did not hit the landslip in any great volume. There was obviously some there, but not the greatest volume that there could be. And the landslip, thankfully, did not move on October the 6th. Okay, there we go. I'm going to hand that back to you, if I can. How do I do that? Stop sharing. There we go. There you go, Mike. Do you want to take that back? Before I finish, there are probably lots of questions. Feel free in the next session, if we can get going, or to email me if you want to ask questions. And if you want to see the reports, you're welcome all to have a look. And thank you once again for listening. Thank you. Mike, over to you.
Thank you very much, Stuart. That was absolutely brilliant. Thank you. It does explain a great deal. I'm sure that everybody here has got some sort of questions and are grateful for what you've just said. If you want to ask a question, I can see most people, but not everybody. If you just want to wave your hand at me so I can click you, and you'll have to unmute yourself if I introduce you and ask you to put your question to Stuart. We have got only 3 minutes left. I am quite willing to go on by rebooting after we've lost the first session. It's very simple. It just takes 2 or 3 minutes to get back on air again. Anybody got any questions they want to put to Stuart here and now? Well, I'll put the obvious question.
Yeah.
What should we do about it, Stuart?
The permanent way crew went down there on October the 6th and relieved a lot of the surface water over the side and into the River Irwell, which saved the track. The track didn't move, and it meant the water did not go into the landslip. We don't want the water in the landslip. So the report is saying, like Environment Agency infrastructure, we can't handle this volume of water, and we need to take a really serious look at designing those drains, either surface drains or deep drains. What we want to do is to take the volume of water that we need to handle, feed that into a model, and then design our drains around that. So a rather logical and obvious answer to that, Mike, but obviously this is going to take a lot of technical input and a lot of knowledge, and to be honest with you, some money.
Would it be sufficient to capture the water alongside the railway track in a trough and then feed it through some drainage pipes under the railway line and still in the pipes right down to the river level? Or do we need to try and capture the water higher up the hill before it gets that far down?
I think it's incumbent on us to capture the water wherever we can. We hope to be able to talk to the landowners at the top there to see if they can help us out in any way. Our main input was to the 2016 drain to take it away from the landfill. We didn't realise how much was coming down the railway line itself. And I would suggest you're not wrong there, Mike. We need to have ideas around how on earth are we going to take that volume of water down the railway line, over a landslip, and where are we going to send it to? So a risk assessment of where you're going to send it to is needed as well.
I would have thought we needed to pipe it into the river rather than onto the bank. Otherwise, it just washed the river bank away and cause even more problems.
Yes, and the issue you've got there is where do you pipe it over to the river? Because in reality, once you're in cutting right up to the crossing itself, then you're on landslip. You don't want to be passing water down there unless you can help it. So you have to take it past the landslip and you wind up at the bottom of the 2016 drain. And if you go across from there, you wind up in the old brickworks. So again, if you are going to do that, you need to give it some thought. And I don't know the total answer to that question.
We're going to go any minute.
Yeah,
we are going to die within a minute. Do we need to reboot, or are we happy with what we've seen?